All right, Stochastic. Here we go. It's your old pal EMAC coming to you with a little NBA. No, wait, NFL action here. Nothing but NBA talk before the show here. What's going on, Mr. Ehrenberg? Missed you last week. Mangone and I had a fun show. We figured our last show we had done was like 8 years previously, so that was kind of fun. Catching up with him after the show, before and after. So good times there. A lot of people don't realize because it's been such a long time, but I actually started out at Roto Grinders. Once upon a time, I was the first weekend host with one Warren Kasoy, Bills fan, 777. He had just turned 18 and was graduating from college and heading to university in Canada. So we were catching up on some of the crazy things that has transpired since then. But we've got football to talk about tonight. All of the games are now over for this afternoon. I'm sad I'm not doing a show with Eric Lindquist because go Seahawks. Go Seahawks. That was nice. I didn't realize they could win without Jackson Smith and Jigba doing well. But hey, there we go. I'll take that. As a long-suffering Seahawks fan, even though they have a couple Super Bowls now. All right. So tonight's game, a little bit cold in our nation's capital, going to be in the low 40s. Moderate wind, not even light breeze, about 5 to 8 miles an hour. Should not really impact anything. But I do bring that up because we'll have some fun when we get to the kicker analysis here. But most important thing to remember is, oh, goodness, gravy. Oh, gravy. That's what we're supposed to remember, Greg. The promo code, 50% off any weekly package. That ends tonight. This is the Black Friday sale. You can get any weekly package. You can get the single sport. You can get the full suite. You can get the core. You can get the max. Any 1 week package, 50% off, promo code gravy. Same thing over on OddsShopper, 50% off OddsShopper as well, ending tonight. All right, so I see people saying, yes, past my bedtime. I did not get a nap today. I drank a fair amount of coffee this afternoon. Cold brew, since I'm in Florida, and none of this hot stuff. But yeah, it's I'm going to try to stay awake. Wife's gone. She's off on the other side of the state. Her and her friends completed their 5th year of running Space Coast. So this is down by Cape Canaveral. So they get some gigantic medal for doing half marathon 5 years in a row. So it's me and the dog. And the dog's like an alarm clock. She likes to get up at 6. So no fun there. All right. With our fun here, we have one more game with Marcus Mariota as the starter. We have Denver pushing for one of the best records in the league. Of course, tomorrow night we get New England, who also is up near the top there, or at the top currently in the AFC standings. So very important game for Denver. Not so much for the Commanders. This looks like a lost season. 3 different injuries to Jalen Daniels. Sorry, I got basketball on the mind. And it's,
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. Well, just
you got to help out the old man sometimes, guys.
It is. But back to Terry McLaurin. That's where I was going with this. Terry McLaurin is back. He played one game basically in the last 3 months because he had been dealing with injuries, and he re-aggravated the injury several games ago. He looks kind of rusty. I'm a little nervous about him. The running back situation for the Commanders has basically imploded. They dealt away Brian Robinson Jr., and of course, Austin Eckler went down for the season in week 2. It's been a rotating cast of misfits in there. Everybody can do one thing, and none of them do their one thing well. So this is looking like a rough game here for the Commanders, but we know anything can happen, and we've seen some crazy stuff on some of our island games here, and everybody will want to build 5-1s with Denver, 4-2s, but don't forget, Commanders might score in some form or fashion, and that is what we're going to try to suss out tonight, even though this looks like a one-sided affair. Is that sort of your assessment as well?
I mean, that's what should happen on paper, is they should win fairly comfortably, but the Panthers beat the Broncos today. We're not that far removed from the Dolphins being double-digit underdogs to the Bills to win the game. There's a lot of weird things that happen in football games all the time. So it would
short-handed San Francisco 49ers winning their game a few weeks ago. Yeah, a lot of weirdness. Do you remember Week 6, Monday Night Football, the Commanders lost to the Bears literally on a field goal as time expired. That was kicked by Jake Moody. That's important to note because Jake Moody is suiting up for the Commanders tonight in a full circle moment. They are his third team. This is his fourth game of the season. He's already been cut by 2 teams, or he's been an emergency replacement for Chicago after he lost his job in San Francisco. But hey, there's oddities. Wouldn't that be funny if now he gets a game-winning kick for the team that he beat in week 6? But let's go to the top here. It is looking like Bo Nix is our guy. So I will hand this over to you, Greg. Where is he coming up in the multiplier slot? Because he looks relatively pedestrian. His numbers are slightly better than last year in some cases. And the slightly better part is Coach Sean Payton is allowing him to throw a little bit further down the field than he did last year when he had a 66% completion rate. He doesn't throw deep all that often still, but he is making less mistakes now that he's taking on some more challenging throws, still adding a little bit with his legs. What do you like about Bo Nix? And expand from there, good sir.
Yeah, so relative to all the other players on the slate, he projects much better than everybody else in our data. So I've got here the captain selected on screen, but also just to show you guys the normal projections. It's also worth noting that much like today's main slate, EMAC, this should be a fairly, on paper at least, this should be a fairly low scoring showdown slate. So we have Bo Nix projected for 18.75 fantasy points. There's not a single other player in our data projected for more than 16 fantasy points right now. 15.99 for Marcus Mariota, 15.12 for RJ Harvey. The 4th highest projected player that we have in this entire game is Troy Franklin at 12.5 fantasy points. So when you ask me what I like about Bo Nix, it's just that he's a better fantasy player than all of the other players in this game, and he projects much better. But the flip side, you had asked me initially, how is he doing relative to his ownership? What are our exposures looking like? He is our most rostered captain. We've got him in 22% of lineups, but that actually is a little bit underweight to the field to him, where he's projected for 26% ownership. So you'll see this on both FanDuel as well as DraftKings in our sims. Bo Nix, he's going to show up in more lineups than anybody else in the multiplier spot, but we do view him as being a little bit overowned. And I do think there's interesting ways that we could just build different lineups, particularly in single entry, by rostering anybody else in the multiplier spot. This could be one of these games where maybe there's only 1-2 touchdowns scored, and you could have somebody who maybe puts up like 15 fantasy points, and it's some random guy who's like 2% owned, and that just happens to end up being the winning captain. So you play him in cash games in the captain spot because he projects the best. But really what I like about him is that there's a lot of poor DFS players in this game, and he's a pretty good fantasy producer relative to the other options.
You mean like me, who's going to 3-3 in the cash game streets here with Moody instead of Will Lutz, so it balances out as 3-3? That's right. Take my money. I'm giving it out again this week. Team free money, username EMAC, $1 in the DFS streets on DraftKings. So the part that I want to call it on Nix is he does have 3 touchdowns this year in his 11 games. His rushing is down to about 19 yards per game. It was 25 last year, but he only had 4 touchdowns last year. So he's adding just enough, and he possesses the upside with his legs to kind of, if you squint, make him a decent captain spot or a multiplier slot guy here. When we branch out to his receivers, we're going to include Evan Ingram in that group. It's very, very consolidated. You have Troy Franklin, second-year player. Of course, you get the shower narrative because he was a college teammate of Nix for their final year in Oregon. He has had 3 really good games, but he is getting a discount of about $1,000 on both sides to Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton, we've seen have a ton of good years previously, but the volume just hasn't been there in the passing game overall with Coach Sean Payton there. But those two are getting the bulk of the targets. And then third on the list is Evan Ingram, who is not reprising his role from who was he with the Jaguars for a couple of years? Not reprising his role of he's not a PPR monster anymore, which is kind of disappointing. And then last thing to call out, J.K. Dobbins on the injured reserve. So we have R.J. Harvey, the rookie. is not going to be a bell cow back. If we look at the last game, he was on the field for about 60% of the snaps, had about 60% of the touches. And we know that Sean Payton tends to rotate through the running backs. So you have a slight discount, Dandy. He's not an extreme punt, but Jaleel McLaughlin, who we saw over the last couple of years come in as a change of pace back, he's going to maintain that role here as well. And then Tyler Bidet is lurking. So nobody exciting there. Nobody really popping. Anyone could get a touchdown, and that would be a difference maker. Do you have a lean for maybe floor projections from those guys, since those are the starting skill position players?
Okay, so which just to clarify, so I'm giving the right guys. Which four guys?
The starting skill players for Denver.
Okay. So we're just looking at the starting skill position players. The one who's projecting the best for us, it's pretty clearly RJ Harvey, and then followed by him, Troy Franklin. We touched on these guys a little bit at the top. But once again, there's such a significant drop-off in terms of fantasy point projection once you get past RJ Harvey. So you look at RJ Harvey's at 15.12 fantasy points, mentioned Franklin's at 12.55. We've got Sutton actually projected below Troy Franklin. I'm kind of curious to see what the prop lines look like between these two guys, because I don't know about you, EMAC, but I typically, when I think of this team, I still think more often than not the number one wide receiver as Courtland Sutton. What do we have as receiving yards props for these guys? We've got, well, maybe not. I mean, it's very close. Sutton's at 48.5 as a receiving yard prop. Troy Franklin's at 50.5. So, yeah, it does look like Sportsbook's also leaning a little bit more towards Franklin over Sutton. It's a marginal difference in our projections, maybe a little bit too wide based on what the receiving yardage props are. And then there's such a big drop-off between all of the other Denver skill position players. So you got Harvey at 15, Sutton and Franklin both around 12 fantasy points. Your next highest projected Denver skill position player is McLaughlin at 7 fantasy points. So as far as spend up guys, there's not all that much to choose from here. Like I said before, I still think in general Sutton as the number one wide receiver for Denver over Troy Franklin. Also, their difference in props is pretty minimal. I like the ownership discount you're getting on Sutton compared to Troy Franklin. And if you look in the captain spot, look who got in the captain spot. Courtland Sutton's 5% owned, 5.6% owned, and Franklin's 11% owned. That's a pretty significant difference. I think one of the easiest ways to get a little bit different with Denver builds is just going to Courtland Sutton as your wide receiver in the captain or MVP spot, as opposed to Troy Franklin, who's way more popular.
You know what? I'm dropping the link into chat here. I made the same point in my article nice. With the ownership, the rostership, the popularity discount between the two receivers, that $1,000 difference on both sides is sort of creating. And on this particular slate, $1,000 is it's very manageable to maneuver around. Sometimes I want the big discount, or I want I'm really going to get different here. It doesn't take much to get different, as you're pointing out, to go to Sutton over Franklin, and you're not really hamstringing your roster because you only slightly downgrade one position, if that. So it's an interesting way to get there. How do you feel about the running backs here? Do you think? What do we do with Bidet? Do I really? I know you love bidets, so
big advocate of them. Big advocate of them.
How are you feeling about the running game as we start to wrap up the Denver side of this game?
Sure. So the running game on Denver, I think it's hard to not be really interested in RJ Harvey. He shows up in a good amount of lineups for us. We got him in 43% of lineups in the flex here. In the captain spot, he shows up in 17% of lineups. So what is that, about 60% exposure to him overall? There's no more J.K. Dobbins for Denver. RJ Harvey was, a second or third round pick, RJ Harvey? He was a second round pick, RJ Harvey, in the draft, tail end of the second round. So they used decent draft capital on him. Clearly, they brought him in with the idea that he was going to be the running back of the future, and the idea that he was going to start sharing this workload with Dobbins. But now, due to injury, it's just going to be Harvey as the lead man left in the backfield. Like, I'm sure that we're going to see some workload for McLaughlin as well. I actually did place a bet earlier on the week on the opening number for his rushing yards prop. I bet him at, what was it? I think 21.5 or 22.5, the over for rushing yards. So I do think that we're going to see some sort of a role for him. I don't know that you have to go just because the players on this slate Mac are so weak as fantasy producers. Like, look in the flex spot, what we have as spend ups. Bo Nix is 11K. Marcus Mariota is 10.2. You got Deebo Samuel at 10K. Sutton's 9,800. Nobody else is above 9K. I don't really think you have to go that cheap and punt all that frequently on the slate, because it's like, what's the opportunity cost of, just playing mid-range guys? Like, you're not really missing out on that much at the high end. So I don't really feel that much of a need to go all that cheap at punt. You look at the Sims, I scrolled down. We've got under 2K. The guy who's rostered the most is Treylon Burks at 7%. So I don't really think the punt options are all that necessary for the slate. But as far as the running back situation overall, just with the salary needing to be spent somewhere, I mean, RJ Harvey has a positive game script. They should be running the ball in the fourth quarter of the game. He's not competing with Dobbins for touches anymore. It's hard for me to not be really interested in him.
All right. Dumpster diving here. We could go to Adam Troutman, who's going to be on the field 50-60% of the snaps because he's the blocking tight end. He's good for 1 to 2 targets per game. Who else is here? Lil Jordan Humphreys back in our lives. He was signed off the New York Giants practice squad because Sean Payton can't quit him. Greg, Sean Payton cannot quit Lil Jordan Humphreys. I don't think we really need to go to either one of those guys. And then for perspective, Bidet and McLaughlin I want to say they each had 8 snaps in the last game. I do think McLaughlin's going to get a little bit more work tonight. But again, Sean Payton is, not only does he play or rotate through the backs, you do get about 15 to 20% of the time he uses Adam Prentice, the fullback, on the field. So gets a little tricky there. All right, the Washington side, Marcus Mariota, battle of the former Oregon Duck quarterbacks here. Marcus Mariota was the Heisman winner way back in the day. He's one of the better backups in the league, but he's best served making a spot start here or there. He's, what is he? I think 33 or 34. Now he is, not quite as spry and mobile as he once was. And because he has had to start so many games, he's banged up. And he was a guy that sort of lost his role because of all the injuries he had. It has been a good 3 years since he had really started any games, if I remember correctly. I know that he had some time in Philadelphia where I don't even know if he got into any games, but prior to that, he was Atlanta starter, ultimately ceding that job. So he is someone we know what we're getting. We're getting a little bit of running. And I got trivia for you. You're familiar with Chris Davis, Chris Davis from baseball, and his 4 consecutive years of batting, 247 or 248, whatever it was. Here's that one's statistically almost impossible. Mariota has thrown for 213 yards each of the last 3 games.
All right.
That was the best thing I could find about him to find anything interesting. His props earlier were 190 over under for his passing yards, and I think he was close to about 23 rushing yards. So
the other one of baseball consistency that I like to think about, Adam Dunn hit the exact same amount of home runs in 4 consecutive seasons. It was 40 home runs on the dot Adam Dunn had in 2025, 2026, 2027, and 2028. And then he broke that by only hitting 38 in 2009. But yeah, 4 consecutive seasons with that. It was exactly 40 homers by Adam Dunn. It's not as crazy as the Chris Davis one, who, then went on to get paid a shit ton of money. And then remember, he wasn't able to take his ADD medication anymore.
No, that was the other Chris Davis, the other one, not the Baltimore one. Never mind. With the KHRS, the former Brewer.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, my bad. I was thinking of Chris.
That's why I said the K, but he has been out of the league long enough. It's allowed. It's allowed.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. I forgot Chris Davis. I forgot my Chris Davises.
Yes. All right. Oh, one guy I didn't really mention, Marvin Mims. So he missed the last game with an injury. He kind of maybe slightly out of the rotation a little bit. You've got, who is it? Pat Bryant is kind of, he and Pat Bryant will be splitting that wide receiver 3 role. There's not a lot of targets that goes to them, but the one nice thing about Mims is he is the main kick returner and punt returner. Plus, he can score from anywhere on the field. But again, we don't see that many deep passes from Bo Nix. On the running backs here, let's hit on that before we get into the mess that is the wide receiver. So let's start with our first mess here. You have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the rookie. Bill has not had good games for 5 or 6 weeks. He's actually lost the starting job to Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez is probably even less active in the passing game than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, which is saying something. And then your third down passing back, Jeremy McNichols, is not really getting a lot of targets. He is getting more carries than anything else. I don't want to play any of them. I don't really think any of them have touchdown equity tonight. Is there a decent reason to play them other than being slightly different from the rest of the field and avoiding the 5-1 builds in every single lineup?
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, it's hard to, completely write off an entire backfield from
But I'd like to. I'd really like to, Greg.
But to your point, Emac, here's what we had for snap count last week. And also, this is so subject to change on a whim at any given time. Chris Rodriguez was reported to be the presumed starter heading into week 1 this year, and he was a healthy DNP. It wasn't even active.
For the first 2 weeks,
for the first, yeah. And then Austin Eckler. So here's how crazy it is. He is expected to be the starter, is a healthy DNP the first 2 weeks. Austin Eckler tears his Achilles. Chris Rodriguez comes back in week 3, not just comes back, but plays 38% of the snaps and starts for them. His first game after not playing at all the last couple of games. And it's just been all over the place, the snap count. So last week, it was 45% of snaps to Chris Rodriguez, 27% to Krosky-Merritt, 25% to Jeremy McNichols. But you only have to go back to week 8 to find Krosky-Merritt playing 57% of snaps, 43% to McNichols, and 4% to Chris Rodriguez. Like, every couple of weeks, there's some sort of massive change with the snap counts of these guys, which makes it very hard to really find any of this to be all that reliable. If forced to pick one, I guess I'm going to go to Chris Rodriguez, but while he played the most snaps last week, Krosky-Merritt played the most snaps the week before. So, actually, I'm going to argue against myself here. Just I think it's so unpredictable. I want the lowest owned. I want the lowest owned guy here. McNichols is 7% owned. Rodriguez is 15% owned. Krosky-Merritt is 5% owned. The most likely scenario is that none of these guys are going to be good. If I'm going to pick one, though, to roster right here, I'll just say Krosky-Merritt because the snaps have been so highly variant and he's the lowest owned. That's the only reason. He's the lowest owned in a very unpredictable situation.
Yeah, I begrudgingly, that's more or less where I landed, but it's let your heart lead the way, gamers, because there is no right answer to this, at least until the game is played. So we'll let me get to the cross key. So so everybody got excited with Merritt because in weeks 4, 5, and 6, he rushed for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns on 38 carries, and then he had a couple fumbles. And he not really active in the passing game, so he sort of fell off the table, but there was no one to really claim the role until Rodriguez started popping up over the last couple of weeks. In his 2 games back, Rodriguez does have 160 yards on 33 carries, and he has 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games. So they essentially have similar stats, just at different points in the season. So whoever is getting more carries could be viable. All right, Terry McLaurin is going to play tonight. He has been close to returning a few times, returned a little too early. He went out, he hurt his quad in, I want to say it was week 3. He came back like 3-4 games later and re-injured it, and he's been out since. He also, if I remember correctly, was a bit of a holdout at the beginning of the season, which did not really help him get off to a quick start. So this has been just a rough season for him all around. And we want to remember his biggest attribute is his speed. Quad injury, only slightly better than a hamstring or a groin injury for someone who is fast. And it's a very slim margin there. So that because in football, where you get hit usually from the front, and that puts your quads at a little bit of a disadvantage there. Deebo Samuels will look at his salary and say, "Oh my gosh, that's an awful lot." But as Greg's pointed out, who else are we going to spend our salary cap on, right? So he's okay. My personal favorite of everybody is Zach Ertz, and that's the dreaded vote of confidence I get. But he is the one I like. And then Robbie Chosen was released. Yeah, it's Robbie Chosen. Remember him? Luke McCaffrey is injured, so we will have to see how this shakes out with Chris. Why am I blanking on the guy, their veteran receiver? Did I not? Chris Moore. So Chris Moore had been had 30 targets this year, but he's going to lose out to McLaurin. Jalen Lane is probably going to hang around for the wide receiver 3 role, splitting it with Moore a little bit. And then there's a new entry, Treylon Burks. Yes, that Treylon Burks who never quite broke through with Tennessee. He is with the Commanders now. So he is someone, I believe he's $1,000, $1,100, is probably the best discount dandy. But it's hard to vouch for him too much, only because, and the only reason we kind of are is the coach said nice things about him this last week. He said if hungry was measured, he would be off the charts or something like that. His desire to play, if you will. Like that didn't translate into fantasy points before, but maybe it will tonight.
Here's what's really, really hard about the Commanders' wide receiving situation. So, like you mentioned, Terry McLaurin is back, but by all reports, he's going to be playing limited snaps today. He's not going to have a massive workload. We have him projected for under 9 fantasy points, and he's somewhat popular. 24% ownership going to Terry McLaurin. We've got him 5% owned in the captain spot, too. There's just so many other guys that should have more upside than him. Now, of course, at any point in time, it's football. One player could break one long run in a way that, in NBA DFS, if somebody's going to be limited to 20 minutes, it's pretty hard for them to have a ceiling game. Like, sure, one of those times on the field, he could have an 80-yard touchdown reception. I would just rather play pretty much anybody else in this price range. I'd rather play RJ Harvey. I'd rather play Troy Franklin, rather play Cortland Sutton. If you look at the guys underneath him, I'd rather play Zach Ertz, who you said is your preferred option in the passing game for the Commanders. But the guy's 20, he's in a quarter of the field's line. Well, more than that, almost a third of the field's lineups if you include the captain spot. And he's only expected to play a handful of snaps. And he's still not the price tag he normally is, but he still is, somewhat of a price tag to him. There's just other guys I prefer to play than McLaurin. If he was limited and like 10% owned as a pay up option, be like, hey, maybe we could play for him to break one. But now I kind of think he has to break a long play in order to be in the winning lineup at this kind of salary with the snap count restriction that he's going to be on. So he's my least favorite pay up option on the slate.
I think those are all salient points there.
Salient points.
There you go.
Saline is an eye drop solution.
Salient.
Oh, I thought you said saline.
No. That would be the eye drops that I'm holding.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were looking at them in front of you, like brick, like brick from Anchorman. You just look in front. Saline.
Oh, good times. Thoughts on playing Adam Troutman to get different? Well, let's see, because I'm sure I mentioned something about that in my article. So I said Adam Troutman is usually on the field for 2/3 of the snaps, with Evan Ingram in the mix for 40 to 50% of the offensive action. There are individual games where these usage rates have ebbed and flowed from this baseline, though it has been fairly consistent for over the last month. You're looking at 1 to 2 targets. Something good could happen, but what if in our most likely outcome, we could see Coach Payton running the ball a lot. He's barely positive on pass rate over expectation this year, or the team is. And they have an awesome defense that we haven't even talked about yet. So you're hoping for a red zone target, which is completely plausible, but there's really nothing supporting it. So I'd rather roll the dice on, Burks or not Ben's, not maybe. Do we go to who's the 49ers guy or the Commanders guy? Bates, is that he their other running back? The tight end. He might have a better chance. I like the thought to get different. It just feels to me that you're wishing on a wish.
Here's the problem with Troutman. It was like before when I was showing you guys the exposures to the flex spot in The Sims, and sub 2K, nobody's showing up in more than 10% of lineups. You just don't need the salary savings for this slate. What are you going to do with them? We don't have guys to really pay up for today. We've got Bo Nix once again at 18.75 fantasy points, Mariota 15.99 in our projections, and there's a big drop off. Well, RJ Harvey too, 15.12, and then the next highest projected player is Troy Franklin at 12.5. I don't think it's necessary to get to some of these super cheap guys today. The reason we would normally do it is it's like Eagles and Cowboys are playing in a primetime game. You've got CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. You need to save salary so you could fit those guys into lineups. What is the most likely 0-1 fantasy points from Adam Troutman going to get you? It's just going to get you, Terry McLaurin or somebody else who's projected for 8 fantasy points. On the high end, it doesn't even project for that much different than a lot of guys in the mid-range. So these punt guys, if you got, and I know a lot of you just play 1, 2, 3 lineups, you don't need a punt for today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But again, no stone unturned by any stretch. And Sam Weiss says, aren't we all wishing on a wish to win the two? Yes, we're going to have to be lucky to win tonight in these top-heavy tournaments.
Sorry, we got the super chat, and I would like a little bit more context. Mr. Smiggy, why, Greg, do you change your vibe? I don't know why. I don't know what the why was in reference to, but why, Greg, do you change your vibe when you're bored? Could you?
I think he's wearing the robe, Chad. He's very relaxed.
Oh, is that what he's referring to?
I maybe.
I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Smiggy. Just to follow it, you don't have to leave a super chat or anything. Just a follow-up comment in the chat. I don't really totally understand. Happy to answer any questions though. For me, if it is about the robe, I'm wearing a robe today because it's cold. That's it. And it's a Sunday and I feel like getting dressed today.
All right. Rounding the special teams up quickly, and then I'm going to build out my lineups here. I'm sure you will do the same. Will Lutz has looked pretty good in his 2 seasons and change in Denver after kicking in the Superdome for New Orleans for many seasons. 88.6% success rate. That's pretty good, going from an indoor kicker to an outdoor kicker. I already mentioned that Jake Moody is on his 3rd team of the season, and his little trivia was he beat the Commanders on a game-winning kick as time expired when he got a spot start for Cairo Santos with Chicago. The Washington defense and special teams, not good. Luke McCaffrey was a promising return guy on kickoffs, but yeah, he's hurt, and there's really nothing to be excited about there. But Denver is on pace, 17-game season on pace for 75.8 sacks, which would crush the 70 of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2022, also in the 17-game season. This is just nuts. I went back and looked how it would be on a 16-game season, 71.3 sacks, which would be behind only the Chicago Bears the year before they made their Super Bowl run. So we are witnessing a historic season when it comes to sacks by Denver.
By the way, so Mr. Smiggy said the question is also, in my defense, how is anybody supposed to know that this is what the question was based on the above? Here was the super chat was, why, Greg, do you change your vibe when you're bored? And then the follow-up was about, where is it? So here's what he meant by that. The question is, when you hate on Eric, you smile. When Emac, they're both Eric, by the way. When Emac annoyed, move on. So part of it too is different dynamics with everybody. Also, I get so much enjoyment out of making fun of. I don't know why.
Eric.
I don't know why it is, because like all of us here are friends. For whatever reason, there's something about Eric where it is so much more fun to make fun of him than everybody else. I don't know why. It's just what it is. I don't know why. It's just the way life goes sometimes. Maybe it's his face. Maybe it's his stupid smile. There's something. I really enjoyed demoralizing him from time to time. Emac's my old pal. Sometimes I just feel like when I'm giving him information, I'm doing him a favor. Like I thought I was helping him with this saline thing before, but I just misheard him. Yes. I couldn't tell you. It's just a vibes thing. I couldn't tell you. It's everybody's.
Yeah, I'm not as fun to make. I'm fun to make fun of, but not to be mean to. So that changes this a little bit as well. And even though Greg is mean with only love when it comes to.
So there's a part of it too where I'm trying to think the best way to explain it. It really is. Emac is just, he's your neighbor. He's your old pal. He's an old guy. Like Emac is nothing but nice to everybody, where Eric is like sort of, but at the same time too, he's always kind of victory lapping.
He gets a little edgy with chat. He bans people.
Eric goes about his work in a way where he is asking for it. And I don't mean that in any kind of like derogatory way where it should be twisted or anything like that. There's something about the way that Eric approaches shows where it just works. If I made fun of Emac on shows the same way I make fun of it, would just come across as mean. It would just, for whatever reason, it would just come across as mean. Whereas when I do it with Eric, it's like more understandable. I don't know why. It's just how it goes.
All right. We need to take your anger out on me. Team Free Money just put 10 more head-to-heads in the DK lobby. Username Emac, because I've been around since DraftKings started, so I didn't have to put numbers after my name. So feel free to take my money. Everybody else has been. I think that hits most everything here. I'm kicking off my projections run. I got my upload file ready. Are you seeing anything that's popping, anything that's weird that you would like to call out?
I do want to remind people just one more time, because we got 10 minutes to go until lock here, is that we do have the Gravy promo. This is the absolute final day to take advantage of it. It is 50% off our Black Friday deal with the promo code Gravy. It's good for any Stochastic Weekly package. It's also good for any of our Portfolio EV packages. Just sign up with that promo code Gravy. Link to sign up is down below in the YouTube description box. So definitely go ahead and check that out. One thing that just to circle back when we brought up at the top, and this is going to apply to DraftKings and FanDuel. It's the same shitty players on both the slates today, Emac. I really do like going to Courtland Sutton to get a little bit different. Of all the players who I think are actually decent players in this game that aren't limited, because Terry McLaurin would obviously fall into this camp as well. Just his upside is a little bit capped because he's going to be on a snaps restriction here. But of all the guys at the top that I think are kind of getting overlooked by the field, you got Courtland Sutton right there, who I think could be as productive as any of the skill position players in this game. But he's 5% on the multiplier spot, whereas Troy Franklin's 11% owned, RJ Harvey's 19% owned, Mariota's 11% owned, Bo Nix 26% owned. I think Courtland Sutton's getting slept on a little bit. He's super easy to get overweight to the field too.
No, I think that's a good call out as we continue around. And sort of it's one callback on that Adam Troutman question. I'd rather take a chance on like Marvin Mims if you're looking for differentiation, just because he's such a dynamic player and probably will get the same number of offensive touches, but he'll get the special team ones. So we shall see. Who is your most owned MVP or captain?
So it's somewhat of a loaded question because the answer is Bo Nix, but I also come in underweight to the field to him. Okay. He's just so much more popular than everybody else.
Yeah.
Relative to three spots relative to ownership that I like being overweight to the field to. One of them, Courtland Sutton. Don't want to expand on that anymore because I brought it up a few times, including just now. So I think people know where I'm at on that. Another one too, Marcus Mariota. lot of rushing up. Both quarterbacks in this game rushing upside. So all the games that we do these shows together, EMAC, where I don't want to play the quarterbacks in the multiplier spot because they don't have rushing upside. None of those concerns in this game. Both these QBs have rushing upside. So Marcus Mariota. And then also the Broncos defense. You could play at, what is the ownership on the Broncos defense in the captain spot?
2.6%, I believe.
Yeah. Sub 3% owned, so like 2.5% ownership on the Broncos defense. There's a real scenario here where they just flatten the Commanders. And if the Commanders aren't going to do anything on offense, maybe this is just a super low scoring game that the Broncos end up winning, like 17-3 or 17-0 or something like that. So if I want to be really, really contrarian in the captain spot / MVP spot, Broncos day.
Yeah, I can't even remember what it was. It must have been a Monday night. It's either Monday night or Thursday night about 3 weeks ago. It was that just a horrible game. And I think the Raiders were involved. Might have been Denver as well. But the defenses ended up being prominent. And that was the slate where I cleared $4,000. So it's and it was a horrid game. It was just a dreadful game. But those are in the outcomes. I'm in, 28% of Harvey at captain. That seems a bit aggressive. I'm under on Knicks, as you mentioned. Slightly over on Mariota. I do not need to be over on Will Lutz. I'm over on Franklin. I'm over on Broncos D. This is going to be a fun one. Here. Let me go look at my flex options. Ton of Bo Nix there. That's fine. 50% Will Lutz. Let's take that down to 40%. We got Harvey. You know who I haven't said yet? Sutton. I'm gonna have to give him the old ROI boost. Is that what you ended up doing to get him in your lineup, Sarkari?
Yeah, and it doesn't take much either. All right, so without making any adjustments to the Sims initially, we have 5% of Sutton in the captain spot. Let's see if you just give him a 10% ROI boost here. Courtland Sutton in the captain spot. Here's what it's going to end up doing. If you go into the lineups, unfavorite, and then refavorite the top lineups. I also like to put on some uniques for showdown slates, but yeah, you'll see here, got Sutton. Yeah, maybe do a little bit more, maybe boost them a little. You got to
go about 25%.
10% of lineups. So if you do a 20 or 25% ROI boost, you'll pretty comfortably get 2x the field on Courtland Sutton, which is right around where I want to be. I want to have 10 to 12% of Courtland Sutton in that multiplier spot on FanDuel and or DraftKings. A little bit more on DraftKings than FanDuel just because of the PPR bonus, but same deal. Want to be overweight to the field to him. So yeah, maybe if it went a little bit higher, could have got more, but that's where I'm looking for, right around 10%.
Yep, that is what I am doing as well. And I've got to figure out who is it going. Oh, it's because I've got more. Okay, well, would you want to be over or under on Troy Franklin in the multiplier slot?
A little bit under. But to me, it would be flipping Courtland Sutton and Troy Franklin. Yeah. The roles are just so similar. And that was also the player prop projections bear that out, right? So before we were looking at the props and, oh my God, these bots are coming in heavy right here, trying to get us to look at their emojis. But anyway, so we looked at the player props at the top of the show. I saw some people say they were coming in late. Courtland Sutton's receiving yard prop is 48.5. The prop for Troy Franklin is 50.5. It's very interchangeable between the two, but you've still got 2x the ownership on Franklin compared to Sutton in the multiplier spot. So I think, to me, I just want to flip it and have it be hey, Sutton's projected for 5% ownership. I'll play 10% of him in the multiplier spot. Franklin's projecting for 10% ownership in the multiplier spot. I'll play 5% of him. Just kind of flip what the field's doing with Sutton and with Franklin. It doesn't mean that Franklin doesn't have upside or is unplayable. I view them as very similar, and you get Sutton in much lower ownership.
Yep, that works out, and that's what I was able to do. I've got positive ROIs in all my lineups, which sometimes doesn't happen when you start putting on the heavy caps on some of the players.
Yeah, if you do a bunch of uniques and make a bunch of restrictions, then you could overdo it to the point you just play, not great lineups. But for something like Courtland Sutton, pretty easy. Just give him, 20, 25% ROI boost just for the captain spot.
Yep. All right. Let's get these sorted and let's upload them. All righty. This is we got football today. We got football tomorrow. Always fun. Promo code Gravy ends tonight. I'm assuming at midnight. So don't hesitate to use that. 50% off any weekly package here at Stochastic and also at Odd Shopper for the Portfolio EV.
We do have one more super chat that came in here from Ryan 002. FanDuel GPP, he's got the Denver's defense as the MVP. He wants to know who should he have in the lineup, Harvey and Debo or Nix and Sutton. So considering that you have Denver's defense, I would lean more towards a little bit Denver heavy lineup. So I'll say Nix and Sutton as opposed to Debo Samuel being in the lineup.
Agree with that, but yes, I would agree with that. You're also your hope is maybe they get out to the lead with the passing game, and then
But one other thing too, the Bo Nix projects for so many more fantasy points than everybody else in this game. The reason to get off of Bo Nix is just to make your lineup different. If you're playing Denver's defense in the MVP spot, you're already fairly different. You don't need to add fading Bo Nix in addition to playing the Broncos defense in the MVP spot. Like, then you could be too contrarian at times. And if you're trying to be like, hey, I don't want RJ Harvey, I don't want Bo Nix, I'm going to play some weird guy in the captain spot, then you're just getting to a point where it's like, oh, cool, I've built this lineup out where I've overemphasized ownership. And as a result, I've got a lineup that's projecting for 18 fantasy points.
Do you think Marcus Mariota gets 2 touchdown passes? The odds are not in his favor.
Probably not. It's possible, but probably not.
All right.
Prohibited. The overwhelmingly most likely scenario is that he does not get multiple touchdown passes.
Yeah. Just throwing ideas out there, seeing what sticks. All righty. Well, we are almost up to a lock here. I'm your friendly Mr. Rogers of the neighborhood here. So thank you, Susie, for calling that out. I saw someone else say they never saw me. They haven't seen me get mad before. It's happened a couple times.
He turns into the Hulk. People, he does. He turns green. He grows. He gets an erection, which is weird. But all the other thing, yeah, it's very odd what happens when Emac gets mad. But he does. He transforms into the Hulk like Bruce Banner does.
Yes. No, the only thing I get mad at is here's a rant from me. I sign up for a couple other sites so I can see what their premium content is for the Showdown slates because my articles are always free. They're way more in depth than everybody else's. Annoying things I saw. One person didn't even mention Marcus Mariota in their article today. Another premium one that I pay for, they thought that Jake Moody has been the kicker the entire year, or for the last his three games with Washington. Come on, it was Matt Gay before he got bounced. There's just dumb mistakes here. That frustrates me more than anything else because I'm paying for that. At least if I make a stupid mistake, I'll refund your misery, as Lofty likes to say, because my stuff's all in front of the paywall. But I think it's the most comprehensive article out there for Showdowns because I literally rank every player in the player pool. And for someone who was mentioning I only perk up when they say FanDuel, I call out the differences between DraftKings and FanDuel because I think that's important as well. All the articles I read are all DraftKings only. Nobody covers FanDuel. It's a shame because they've now changed their game format to have that salary multiplier in addition to the points multiplier. So there we go. Who is the most duped lineup?
Yeah, we can show you guys that before we leave. Here's the lineup where if it wins, everybody loses. That is there. No super insanely duped lineups, but the number one most duped lineup on DraftKings today: Bo Nix, Marcus Mariota, RJ Harvey, Treylon Burks, Troy Franklin, Will Lutz. Totally makes sense. You've got all the top pay-up options. You've got Treylon Burks, who's the most popular.
Flip Lutz and Moody, and you have my cash game lineup. So
there you go.
Good times. And we are essentially at lock by the time you get this after your 8 or 10 second delay from when we say this when it happens. So there we go. It should be a fun one here tonight. I'm looking forward to watching it. But don't forget, we do this all over again tomorrow. And we've got the New York Giants going against the New England Patriots. So that breakdown should be a lot of fun. There's a pretty good chance we're going to have Jackson Dart back. which makes things interesting. And I've already started writing the article. And the Giants defense they have their new defensive coordinator, and a couple of the edge rushers were talking a little smack about going after the Drake May. They say he looks a little too poised in the pocket. That was their veiled comment here. And the Patriots are down 2 more starting offensive linemen, it looks like. So they are on tertiary lineups, guys at best, including debating between a guy who probably shouldn't be in the league as a 4-year veteran, I can't think of his name, at their left tackle, or their rookie they drafted at left tackle. So, hey, things could be interesting tomorrow. But NBA will be covered as well, and NHL. You can get all of this for a week, 50% off any of those packages. Promo code GRAVY. Get us out of here, Greg.
Yep, that'll do it for us today, guys. If you haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great night, and I will be on the Strategy Show tomorrow morning for the NFL Monday Night Football game with Lofty. So see you guys then. Good luck tonight.